example, that will leave the shores of Nigeria to other countries. So they understand that a peaceful Nigeria, where peaceful transition continues to happen, automatically guarantees some level of peace for the whole of Africa and particularly West Africa. So they will be involved. They want to know what happens as far as the elections are concerned. And that's why you see that the attention of the world is on Nigeria as we get very, very close to the elections in 2023. It's important that we have a peaceful transition for global peace, for peace in Africa, and for peace in West Africa.
All right, then, moving on from that one, more details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. We also have here, despite Rep's intervention, Emefiele says no going back on cashless policy and withdrawal limits. Also on page 6. So, there have been, we had the conversation that the Senate was going to be looking into the withdrawal limits and the implementation and the adverse effects it's going to have on the people. Okay, and that's supposed to start from today into Tuesday next week when they meet at plenary. But now what we have is the fact that the CBN governor himself, Godwin Emefiele, he's reiterating that there is no going back despite the criticisms trailing that particular policy. And he's also affirming that the policy is not meant to hurt anybody, but to strengthen the nation's economy. All right, so on Tuesday, not on Tuesday now. So the House of Representatives has directed the CBN to rescind its decision on that particular, policy as it is now. And also, we have also getting information that, they have said that the implementation should be suspended and whatnot. So with this back and forth, I don't know, what are your thoughts as regards, we've had the conversation on the withdrawal limits. We've seen the pros, the cons and whatnot, but the intervention of the reps and also the, stand that the CBN governor is taking. What are your thoughts?
I think first and foremost, we need to establish the fact that the CBN is an independent institution. It has its own independence, it has its own rules and regulations when it comes to bringing up monetary and fiscal policies. Same for the legislature that also has some level of oversight function on some of these institutions and what the government does. But I think that the CBN also should be responsible enough to explain to the legislatures the reason why some of these decisions were taken. There's no need for anybody to grandstand on this particular issue. It's important that there's a synergy amongst all levels of government and institutions so that we can all be on the same page. It's just about the explanation and superior argument. If the House of Reps, for example, have their worries and the Senate about this particular policy, then it behoves on the CBN to send his directors and representatives to explain why the policy is important for the growth of the country, for the economic development of the country, and then why it is also important to also help us in the area of security, in the area of having a very good elections too. Again, people have said that this would help in the area of vote buying, and all of that. So I just think that there's room for grandstanding. It's important that the CBN comes clear and train on the policy. If they are invited, of course, they need to honor it. That's the function of the legislators to perform oversight functions on some of these issues. So I'm sure that at the end of the day, we'll all be passed.
I mean, this is not the first time that there's going to be a cashless policy. Some years ago also, there was the first initiation of the cashless policy that dropped over-the-counter withdrawal to 500. Sorry,
and it changed his own reservations to at that time.
And we were able to surmount it. But then I will see how this one also goes. Just as you said, the CBN is supposed to be an independent institution, but then the legislators, they also have a committee on banking, so they can also
perform oversight function.
Exactly. So let's see how that turns out. More details on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. Now, moving on here, we have don't buy meter, transformers or wires. NERC tells electricity consumers. So yes, we've always had this conversation that why are the people the ones paying for transformers, paying for wires and whatnot. But the Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission said it remains the responsibility of electricity distribution companies to provide meters transformers, poles, wires, and other things that are needed for electricity supply.
So when they don't do it and you're in darkness, what do? Your community remains in darkness for months and they don't do it. So what do you do?
They are saying that it is not the responsibility of consumers, but under any circumstances that you have to purchase these items, maybe you cannot wait for the discos to make that investment. They said they've made provision for that under their investment regulation. So that one now, let's see what exactly that would give us. So the agreement should contain a dispute resolution clause and all that. So it's saying the Commission will continue to educate consumers on their responsibility, their obligations, responsibilities, and regulations. But if we are struggling, I'm still trying to get where exactly we have the information on what is the investment regulation or the provision that has been made in a situation where the discos are not, forthcoming, and we need this amenity as urgent as possible. So what do we do? So, okay, I'm with you.
Sandra, that was one of the problems of the regulation that happened during the Jonathan era. As far as these discos are concerned, again, a lot of things happen that we should continue to talk about. We may not go to other stories. But the thing is this: if you look at discos, the way they are structured, you may want to ask yourself, what investments have they really put in terms of infrastructure renewal when it comes to electricity distribution in Nigeria? The old wires are still there, still the same old wires that you see. It is still the same old transformers that you see. In fact, a lot of communities buy poles, buy wires, and if like I always try to say, look, compare the distribution companies, their performances to what you have in the telecommunication companies. Where you have the telcos, they are the ones buying, they are on generator, they run on generator, they invest on mass, they invest on distribution channels, they keep expanding their network, and that's why it's easy for them to declare profit every time. And on the other side, you have the discos who are not investing on distribution infrastructure. They don't buy new transformers, they are not even ordinary meter, which would have guaranteed them, a stable source of income for them. Because again, the pay meter means that you pay, you pay before you use. They are not even doing anything about it. So again, a lot of things happened. I would say wrong things happened when this whole disco arrangement was done. And so the NERC can say whatever they want to say, but people are desperate. You don't have light, you've been in darkness for months, you keep reaching out to your disco and you're not doing anything about it. What do you do? Look, my own community, as we said, we use some personal influence to get transformer. To get the disco of my area to come and even power it and fix it, we have to bribe them. We got transformer on our own, through whatever means. To get them to come and fix and power the transformer, we still have to bribe them.
Okay, so they come and carry you about you bribing officials. I don't know about that, but
okay, I'm just trying to tell you how the situation is.
I understand the reality on ground. I'm not an alien to Nigeria. I live here in Nigeria also. But the truth, or what NERC is trying to educate the public on, or electricity consumers, is that even if you have to go ahead and purchase a transformer, purchase any of these items on behalf of the discos, there has to be an agreement for refund. All right, there has to be an agreement that you send. Okay, I'm going to buy this thing, I'm going to pay for it, but what is going to be? How is it? What's the matter going to be like?
Who will refund? Who is going to refund?
Well, according to her, it's supposed NERC is supposed to use internally generated revenue to buy all of this. So they should the discos should find some sort of way. It's difficult to understand why the discos are not making money. I'm trying to have that understanding.
How do they make money? I just told you they are not even investing on what will ensure proper distribution of power to the extent that they are able to make steady income. You know, if the easiest would have been for them to work on ensuring that every household has prepaid meter. Because it's postpaid, if you don't pay, you are not using.
Exactly. It's very simple, honestly. I don't know why.
Look at the telcos. Look at the telcos, for example. They keep expanding their network. They go into rural areas. They don't even bother with public power.
At all.
They have their own generators. They run it 24 hours because they know that the more people use their service, the more money they make.
The more money
So for the distribution companies, shouldn't it be the more people use this power, the more money they make? Are they investing on ensuring that people have access to more power that guarantees income for them? So we need to question the people that even got these distribution licenses. When were they? And remember the president said that, look, he just gave those licenses to friends and cronies. People who really didn't even have an idea of what to do with those licenses. And it's obvious from their level of performance.
Well,
some of them are even worse than the old NEPA, I'm telling you.
True. But then, the same way that we are also looking up to the discos to get something done, the discos will also come in and say, the transmission guys, the generating guys are also, giving us some sort of problems. That's another one. That's another one. All right, so let us...
They're not
generating, exactly. You see everything. So it's double wahala for electricity consumers. But then more details on this. The NERC is telling people, stop buying meter, transformer and wires. It's not your obligation or responsibility. It's meant for the discos. But then for some places where they've not had transformer, some discos will even carry transformers for months, saying that they want to go and repair it, and then people have to still pay for that transformer to be released. Okay, about more details on page 3. Moving on, we also have here on the front page of the Guardian newspaper, I won't leave Atiku. Maiba insists as hoodlums attack office, destroy cars and others. The riders to that is Rivers government debunks veiled allegation of involvement. States shut center for obstructing traffic while hosting Atiku's supporters. So, Senator Lee Maiba has declared he will not withdraw his support for the presidential bid of Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, even as persons numbering over 20 invaded his residence in the GRA in Port Harcourt, destroying his personal properties, including cars. Maiba is a supporter of Atiku Abubakar, and not to preempt or not to, bring some sort of some sort of indictment or whatnot. This is actually an interesting one because the governor of Rivers State is, a very, very vocal, is very vocal about his not supporting the presidential bid of the People's Democratic Party presidential candidate. So, as it is now, this is saying that Senator Maiba is saying, I'm a PDP man. I must ensure the presidential candidate wins. They came to kill me, but only God knows when I will die. Only God knows when anybody will die. But on that, the former aide to Wike has condemned the attack on Maiba's house. We also have, meanwhile, the Rivers State government has distanced itself from the attack. And the State Commissioner for Information and Communications of Rivers State, Chris Feinbone, has asked security agencies to fish out the attackers. All right. In another development, we also gather that the Rivers State government has sealed off EUI Event Center in Port Harcourt after loyalists of Atiku held a meeting at the venue. Okay, that's another interesting one. All right, so but what happened was that they held a meeting there, and then there was some traffic gridlock. So the sealing off is for causing traffic gridlock, not for having.
So if it was Wiki and his people that were having meeting and they had the same gridlock,
all of this inauguration that he has been doing, hasn't there been a cause of gridlock? But then they'll say, okay, so he's inaugurating things that's for the good of the state. But let's not go deep into that. That's all of the details as regards yes, Senator Lee Maiba in Rivers State. That's on page 28 of the Guardian newspaper. Welcome into the studio, Fuad.
Thank you, Sandra.
All right, moving on now. We also have DSS gives NNPC
I was waiting for that.
Nupeng others 48 hours to end fuel scarcity. That's the conversation this morning everywhere. The fact that the Department of State Security.
So you ask yourself why. What exactly are they saying?
They said that the queues are a threat to internal security.
How? Where? When?
Clusters. I'm sorry, I'm trying so hard to make sense.
And then is DSA to get involved with this? So do you understand when I say that there seems to be some sort of conspiracy somewhere against the Nigerian state?
I want
people.
I want the Nigerian people to help me out. I'm struggling, honestly,
To understand.
to put what
Why the CDSS have to get
why
involved.
the DSS is involved in fuel scarcity,
And then have to give the directive.
and then now
to
saying that
NNPC and
we're giving you 48 hours. Well, maybe they are mediating, so we can.
mediating on what exactly? So okay, after 48 hours and then the queues don't go, what would they do really?
They said that they are going to
Do what?
any defaulter
Eh.
will not be tolerated. Let me put it that way. Yes, let me just leave it at
No, I'm
that.
still asking. Are they going to go on an arrest spree?
Will not be tolerated. Okay. That's just it.
So
They're saying, let me just
okay,
let's
well,
just-
I'm going to
they say that the DSS decided to intervene in the matter because it has the mandate to investigate economic sabotage,
good.
including detecting and preventing threats to national
So
security.
what's supposed to be the job of the EFCC and the ICPC?
Well, they are also saying that even though the agency cannot truly link the current fuel scarcity to economic sabotage,
Okay.
as it is now, but they are ready to rise to the occasion to curtail the situation.
Well, Sandra, I'll say this, and I'm going to try and just manage my words the best way I can.
Please do.
All right. I just think that and I told you that the fact that we're not getting enough information from the NNPC is enough to term it
We're
a
not-
criminal silence.
Please hold for.
Yes.
We're not getting information.
Not
when you say
enough.
enough,
There's nothing coming from there.
there's nothing. Okay, thank you.
So and I said that it was proper to term it criminal silence. If the DSS is coming out to now say that, hey, we need to step in because we are suspecting some form of economic sabotage. You know, I said it, Sandra. Look at the importation chain, storage and distribution. And I said it yesterday, Sandra, if you remember, that there was a company here in the country in the construction that operates a form of semi-monopoly. And they had decided, I think some years back, that they were going to double the price of their product. And you know what they did, Sandra? They simply just created disruption in the supply channel. People didn't get the product. Distributors were saying, where there's no supply, there's a problem somewhere and all of that. And because of the desperation of people to have the product, they started buying at double the price. We should ask ourselves, who are the people responsible for importation, for storage, and then for distribution? People have also asked, why is it that the NNPC's depot don't have the product, but the private depot have the product?
Yeah, you know, we had that conversation yesterday when they said, okay, marketers are saying, okay, so they have it. NNPC has.
Okay, enough supply.
But it's on the high seas.
So who kept it there? Why is it not coming in?
It will come.
So
let's be patient.
I would rather say that again. I don't like the idea of government agencies and institutions issuing out threats. I would rather
There's not
see
a threat.
No, when you say look 48 hours or would not tolerate, it's a form of threat. Rather than threatening, why not make the arrest? If you have anything that you've discovered, I would expect that the DSS has enough intelligence to have been able to discover one or two things wrong in the entire process and say, oh, this is what we discovered. We're going after this person. They're really sabotaging the country, rather than issue these threats and all of that. And again, I would say that the job really, economic sabotage, is for the EFCC and the ICPC to deal with.
The DSS, which is supposed to be a secret agency, has warned that they will launch a nationwide operation on saboteurs if there are still queues at various filling stations in the country after the ultimatum. So I'm wondering, 48 hours starting from yesterday, so from Sunday or thereabout, we'll see if there's going to be any clampdown. But then they had a meeting with NNPCL, with Nupeng, Ipman, Moman, that major oil marketers, depot operators, among others, where they had the conversation. You know, the DSS boss was also there and said enough is enough. So we'll see how this will turn out. The DSS, and
enough is enough to what exactly?
To fuel scarcity
and economic sabotage. I think people should be arrested and prosecuted. What is enough? Do you know that the last 2 weeks people have suffered? People have lost their jobs. Maybe.
Who do you want to arrest now? I want to know.
No,
who do you think should be arrested?
What I'm saying is that we can't continue to live by threats.
Okay.
What we should live with,
take action.
Take action and make example of people who have been ripping the country off.
All right. More details on page 2 of the Guardian newspaper. Finally, from the Guardian, we have Osinbajo meets Vietnam's president. Harms on why Nigeria is best placed to invest in Africa. All right, so the vice president has been traveling a lot recently, but more details of this particular story
It's a fact now. Nigeria is the most populous. We have everything.
on page 3.
It's just leadership that is the problem.
We wish you all the best. All right, let's move on to the Nation newspaper. The Nation newspaper. Okay, so the major headline on the front page of the Nation: Emefiele, review of cash withdrawal policy likely. And what we have is 1 trillion, the riders to that, 1 trillion naira mopped up. Reps invite CBN governor, wants the plan to be suspended. So possible adjustment to the cash withdrawal limit has not been ruled out, but the January 9 takeoff for the policy is sacrosanct. That's coming from the CBN. So that there may be some adjustments, hopefully for the POS operators majorly.
I think they've said that there will be some waivers for them.
Yes, but the CBN governor said the plan, which he described as the continuation of their monetary policy, actually has the backing of the president. Okay, so as it is now, the January 9 date that they're going to kick off for the withdrawal limit is there, but then there may be some adjustments
here and there
on what you can actually do. So we hope that it would be for the,
and that's why the engagement from the legislature is also important. So
they had to. So maybe it was their intervention. Maybe I'm not saying. Maybe it was their intervention that brought about all the outcry of Nigerians. Generally. All right. More details on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. Still on here. We have INEC ordered to list Ogun National State Assembly Labour Party candidates.
That is from the courts.
Yes, of course.
We've done reviews on Ogun State politics.
Now, in recent times, Ogun State, they expelled the DG of the presidential campaign council. Yes, the Ogun State Labour Party, while the National was saying,
no, he's still a member of the party.
What are you doing? All right, so but as regards that particular one, what we have is that a federal high court in Abeokuta has directed INEC to list the names of the 26 Ogun State House of Assembly and the 12 National Assembly. So basically all the legislative candidates of the Labour Party for the 2023 elections in Ogun State in particular. All right, and there's okay. Well, they're saying that the Electoral Act 2022 is superior to INEC's guidelines on elections. Hence, the Commission could not use it to stop Labour Party candidates. It's you can get all of the details on.
INEC could obey.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's the court order. More details on page 31 of the Nation newspaper. We also have here: petrol crisis must end tomorrow, says DSS. NNPCL is in. We have 1.9 billion liters available. All right, so we'll see if it is not, and we'll see how tomorrow. By tomorrow we'll know what exactly that is. That's on page 3 of the Nation newspaper. We also have here Osho APC not opposed to reconciliation with Aregbesol's men. So sometime earlier in the week we had the conversation of Aregbesol's faction saying they are ready to come back. They are ready to come back to
destroy the house.
The party.
It's okay.
No, I mean they are the prodigal children. Let's see what.
Really, I don't think they see themselves as the prodigal. They feel they were not treated well, and so instead of finding a way to reconcile and build and
they've gone. Now they are back.
They want to come back after they've achieved their aim of ensuring that the governor does not win. It's as simple as that.
The anti-party.
Complete anti-party. Like I said, Sandra, yesterday, they should be expelled.
Well, we'll see what exactly Osun APC is going to do as regards
for serious parties with good ideology, not this one. I'm just saying, if it was parties with good ideology that understands what they are doing, they should be expelled.
Aregbesola is Minister of Interior.
And so?
I'm just reminding you.
At that level of anti-party activity, do you know what it means? Because you don't have your way, or you feel.
Haven't you noticed that people in supposedly, powerful positions
don't do anything within the party and nothing happens?
We have 5 governors in a party doing things and running amok. So more details on page 31 of the Nation newspaper. All right, moving on. Above the masthead of the Nation, we have Siemens transformers arrive to boost electricity supply. All right, and that is on page 7 of the Nation newspaper. Let's see what exactly we should be looking forward to as regards that particular story. So, following an agreement that the federal government signed with Siemens on electricity, 10 Mobid power transformers have started arriving in Nigeria. So based on the pact, an order was placed for the purchase of this and also 10 mobile substations. As it is now, the 10 Mobid power transformers is to be situated across the country, and they have started arriving. So let's look forward to good things, I guess, from that particular one. More details on page 7. Yes.
Well, it's good that these transformers are arriving. It means it will help with our transmission. We have better transmission capacity after we generated. But again, Sandra, like we are saying of the oil sector, there are also saboteurs, obviously, in the power sector. We need to deal with that. We need to have hands-on operations on saboteurs within the power sector. Remember that our grids keep collapsing. There are people probably benefiting from that. We also need to look at the distribution, because again, if you are able to transmit properly, but then the distribution companies are not doing enough. We just heard about the fact that they are supposed to be buying transformers, investing in distribution channels, which they are not doing. So it's a tripartite thing, Sandra. Generate, transmit, and distribute. So if one of the levels is faulty, we are still going to be talking about lack of power for the people.
More details on page 7. Moving on, we also have gunmen steal 4 babies in raid of hospital. No place is safe. So that's on page 4. Let's see what exactly we have as regards that particular stealing babies now. All right, and the story is here. Let's see what we have here. Oh, gunmen steal babies. That's the story we're looking for. Yes, in Anambra Hospital. So the incident has rattled Soludo's council area. So in the early hours of yesterday, they went to Aguata council area of Anambra State and snatched away 4 newborns. All right, and that particular council is the hometown of the governor of Anambra State.
The paper has to
why that is related, or how that they stole babies, and let's have these babies coming back. All right, they didn't shoot as usual. They drove to the hospital, took the babies and the blood-stained clothes of the babies, and drove like brand new babies, like babies that just came out. And that's what the ones they took.
What's this for? Is it like, I don't know.
Well, the report is that recently some gunmen actually called one of the medical doctors in Oka South local government area, threatening to visit his hospital if he failed to support the Biafra project.
So how does stealing babies now? You need to sabotage or because again, if you
sabotage the hospital,
that's what I'm saying.
The doctor.
I'm just trying to understand where.
Or to make a statement.
What kind of statement are you making by stealing babies? How does that help the Biafra cause? Again, it's still all allegations. They are still
it's all allegations allegedly now. All right. So, but what as it is now, the doctors are saying that they actually succeeded. As it is that they have actually been, they threatened to make the state ungovernable
by stealing babies.
Since according to them, he has been using security operatives to harass them. So this is one of the strategies. That's what one of the doctors said. That this allegedly now. That is one of the strategies, and the doctor said actually, generally speaking, security in Anambra State has been porous. Generally speaking, adding that only God can protect them during the Yuletide period. No place is safe anymore. So.
I think Soludo, the government has a lot of work to do. Unfortunately, seems to be eroding all of those things. I don't know how he's going to be able to bring any meaningful development or proper governance to that state with that level of insecurity. He has a lot to do, really. It's a big task for him.
All right, moving on. More details of that on page 4 of The Nation. Moving on now, we have here, Rivers government alleges plot to blackmail Wike over G5. That is also on page 4, and get the details there. Finally, from The Nation newspaper, 2023, over 5.6 million PVCs are being collected in Lagos, says INEC.
That's good.
And that is on page 31. Now, we're going to put that against the number of registered and see if that is good or enough, there's still more to be done. All right, and what we have is that out of the 6... Okay, INEC is saying that over 5.6 PVCs have been collected out of 6.6 received in the state between 2011 to 2021. So I think it's a good one there.
But the new registrations is the issue now. That happened between January and July this year, you know.
Because it's very important to note that they said that there were new registrants. I think over 7 million.
7 million, yeah.
Yes,
and I think the distribution is going to start by December 12th.
December 12th to January 22nd.
So,
all right, but as it is from that particular record now, it's pertinent to know that as of December 2nd, over 950,000 PVCs were yet to be collected by their owners. So these uncollected cards and the expected PVCs for fresh registrants. Okay, transfer or review from January will be available for collection in all INEC offices starting from December 12th.
Yeah.
That they announced.
I think that information is important for people who did no registration.
Because fresh registrants, because when you say only 900,000. When they say 7 million new registrants.
December 12th, I think people should be ready to go to.
They should go. Please,
INEC offices to collect their PVC.
The different addresses will be announcing it every day. Please go and collect your PVC. Very important. You're listening to Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. We're looking through the front pages of our dailies, and now we're moving on to the Punch newspaper. And the major headline from the Punch is cash withdrawal. Emefiele insists on limits. Reps demand suspension. All right, and the writers that CBN governor says withdrawal limits will be increased or reduced.
I'm sure he's going to review it. He has to listen to the people.
The most important thing is that they are open
they
are open to review.
Yeah.
I like the fact that they are not saying, oh no, you must go.
No need for grandstanding. It's a policy for the people. Then
customers have returned 1 trillion naira old notes to banks. Bills are kept in CBN vaults. So far, the mop-up exercise is working. No banks in our constituencies.
Who's saying that?
The reps.
What are they saying?
They said there are no banks there.
Are they joking?
They need DPS operators.
I just joking. They're just
cashless policy.
You know the politicians will not be happy about this thing.
The interesting thing is, aside from POS operators, the politicians are the ones that are also going to be heavily hit.
The politicians that are involved with what?
Interesting things.
Like?
I have no idea.
Vote buying. Because I was discussing with one of my guys
we discussed yesterday about virtual vote buying. We talked about that.
That's not good. It's not going to work. The inducement.
Nobody has my account number.
Well, the thing is that vote buying really, if you follow the elections, for some of us who were really involved with election processes and all of that, the inducement works for people who do it on the day of election, because the idea is, you go there, turn print for us, vote for us, and then there's a way they check with their agents that okay, yes, he voted for us, and then they hand out the cash. So so it's an election day thing, and they need the cash to do that. So they are the ones that would complain. Like I said, not all politicians. For politicians who are involved with vote buying, they are the ones complaining, and they should complain. But,
and the ones who are helping people to keep their PVCs until after the election.
But those ones I don't know. I think those ones should be arrested if there are facts to that. That's criminal.
Well, no banks in our constituencies. Cashless policy can't work, says the reps. No banks in their constituencies.
I don't understand. No banks in their constituency?
Yes, the reps.
Which all of them, or maybe
some people.
And I don't think there's any House of Reps member that has a constituency that there's no bank. Even the most remote places in Nigeria, in a constituency in Nigeria, a federal reps constituency.
At the national level.
It's as good as saying that there's a particular local government in Nigeria where there's no bank at all.
That's very interesting.
Well, that would be interesting to know, but again, I think
that's actually very. Even if there are no
but I'm sure there are going to be mobile banking operators.
That's not even if there are no DMBs, that's deposit money banks. There are microfinance banks. Those ones also you can do
although there are parts of the north that yes, you really have to travel far to get access to banks, really, but. I don't think that's enough to now say, we'll not go on with this particular policy. I think we need to just make sure
let them have the conversation, let negotiations go on, and let's know their final take by next week if the CBN governor
Kevin or something.
No, not that. If he actually, responds to the invitation of the Senate, they've invited him. So let's see if
Let's see what happens with
and
that.
the conversation from that. That's on page 31 of the Punch newspaper. Moving on now, we also have reps query NNPC and CBN and others over unaudited accounts. NNPC again.
A lot on that.
Okay, so NNPC.
That was why I said the idea of running into NNPC hell, the transition from NNPC to NNPCL for me was a bit fishy. I
It is still till now we still don't know who's on the board.
I thought that even before we get to even the issue of the board, I thought that look, all of the questions hovering on that institution should have been answered and sorted before any transition.
Before transition,
because the transition means that okay, let's quickly just rush into this. Maybe for me, I think they still have a lot of questions to answer, and the transition should not save them from answering those questions. A lot on that institution, that NNPC.
Is it possible that trying to avoid all of these questions
and
was
that's
what brought about the
that's what I'm saying. It's looking like that
to
now.
privatization?
It's looking like that, really.
Because now they're saying, don't ask us, we're not a private company.
You must answer.
No, don't ask us, we don't pay to the government anymore. No, don't ask us, the government
now
you can't ask anything.
They will have to answer to them.
So more
this is the wealth of the country that they mismanaged, and so they must answer.
More details on page 32 of the Punch newspaper. Also, we have INEC plans voting centers for 2 million internally displaced, but that's 2 million IDP camps. All right, IDPs. All right, election rigging, resist pressure, opposition warns military, DHQ caution soldiers. And that's on pages 2 and 39 of the Punch newspaper. And finally, from the Punch, LCCI knocks federal government over worsening credit ratings. That concern, but that detail or the story, the report is on page 38 of
The
Punch newspaper. Very quickly, LCCI, that's the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, has expressed concerns over Nigeria's deteriorating risk profile following the recent downgrades of the country's sovereign risk profile by 3 leading global default risk rating agencies. Okay, I think this is actually a good one because it will be insensitive to go ahead with more proposed borrowing with the current debt sustainability that we have in the country.
All I want to do, we need to borrow. The deficit means that we have to borrow.
Okay. So, but the LCCI is, knocking the federal government, according to Punch, knocking the federal government over the fact that our credit ratings is getting worse every time. But is it possible that some countries will say, well, we can't borrow your money again?
No, it might get to that point.
Lord have mercy.
Because again, they are going to look at your revenue profile to see whether you can pay. Again, they look at your debt profile, they look at your revenue profile, they look at your performance in terms of repayment. So if they put all of that together and they see that, hey, you are not credit worthy, that's the rating there. So they may say, I think there was a time a country like that ran into that kind of thing, complete bankruptcy. I think Greece. That all of the creditors said we can't borrow you anything again. They couldn't pay salary, they couldn't do anything. So I just hope we're not going to run the country to a point where we become completely bankrupt to the point that nobody will be ready to borrow us any money.
All right, and finally on trends in the papers, we rush through Vanguard newspaper, and the major headline on Vanguard is Petrol. DSS orders dealers to restore supply in 48 hours. That's basically 2 days. So the riders to that is at officially approved rates. Defaulters to be treated as threats to national security. As DSS meets NNPC officials, marketers, tanker drivers, and other stakeholders. And that report is on page 8 of Vanguard newspaper.
When they are going, they should take along EFCC and ICPC. So it's a complete team.
Yes, exactly. Okay, all right. Okay, so moving on now, we shut down stations in Ibadan, Osun. Okay, we will shut down stations in Ibadan, Osun, if, and that is coming from IPMAN, that's Independent Petroleum Marketers Association. And let's see what exactly is the issue.
There are too many influencers, powers that be in the petroleum sector. Too many.
Okay. Well, as it is now, IPMAN has threatened to shut down stations in Oyo and Osun states from next week if the federal government refuses to allow the association pay directly through the designated portal of the NNPCL?
Well, the person that will clean the mess in the oil sector, you see that it gets confusing. The more you dig into,
we've not so first scarcity. We have quickly
again. That's to tell you that
there's so many issues. There's so many
to really clean on the
baggages in the oil sector.
There's a lot of mess, and that sector needs a complete overhaul, a complete cleanup. And it will require a strong resolve of the leader of a president in the country to do that, honestly, Sandra. Because you remember the interview with Adila Yusuf, he says that, look, if you dig too deep into the oil sector, you just get depressed.
Well, as it is now, they're saying that for over 6 months now, they are being denied payment into the appropriate portal of NNPC. And this is what has led them to go to private depots to buy petrol at outrageous prices.
So you see the sabotage again.
So now it's not even a factor of the
product is not available.
Now
they can't even pay to buy.
They can't pay
so
to
they have
buy.
To go to the
so they have to go to the private depot. So that's basically what they're saying now. So they're going to shut down Oyo and Osho.
So who are the people who
is refusing them to pay money for the
probably block the portal or created a situation where they can't pay and get the product from the NNPC depot?
Well, if the government does not do the needful by allowing them to pay into the NNPC purse for marketers to get at the official rate of 148 naira per litre, we will shut down all our stations in Oyo and Osun State.
Sandra.
It's very unfortunate, the reality of our oil sector and the fact that the president is the minister of petroleum. All right, we'll move from that. That's on page 10. Why we stopped mining in Zamfara. That's from the federal government. So that's on page 20. We also have here Atiku versus G5. Plots, counter plots, worsens PDP crisis. All the best.
Those ones, yeah?
It's okay. That's on page 29 of Vanguard newspaper. Ondo monarch pays 10 million naira ransom, regains freedom. Still on this issue of kidnapping in the southwest.
The idea of kidnapping monarchs, one would have thought that
they'll have some sort of plan.
They are fortified spiritually to I keep getting reports of monarchs being kidnapped here and there.
So they're supposed to offer.
Well, maybe not offer, but at least be strong enough to
weigh them off.
Yeah, but
use affordable,
and they have to even pay ransom to get the monarchs back. Probably when
they carry them, I don't know. Supposed to when they carry them.
A lot of people have said that we've actually again tampered with tradition. Our traditional institutions are not as strong as of old. So. Even the Ifa thing, choosing Obas and all of that, people tamper with it, tinker with it, and so maybe that's the reason why our traditional rulers are not as strong, spiritually to ward off such attempts to kidnapping them. I think it's a smear.
Well, this particular one has paid 10 million. He's free. He's in his house now, eating his wife's food. Thank God. That's on page 6 of Vanguard newspaper. One of his wife's food.
Okay.
It's okay. Why Nigeria is best place to invest in Africa. That is from Oshimbajo, and that's on page 7. We also have very quickly, Second Niger Bridge will be open to traffic for 30 days, says the Minister of Works and Housing, Babatunde Fashola. That's on page 13. We also have Igbo elders flay Simon Ekpa, say 5-day sit-at-home order must not stand. Are we still on that? Yes, we are. And that is on page 13 of Vanguard newspaper. That's all we can take this morning on Trends in the Papers on Mainland 98.3 FM. Stay with us. We'll be back by 8:40 as we move to Mainland Focus, and where you also get to be a part of the conversation. This is 98.3 Mainland FM, the sound of Lagos.